Hello everybody. So we've now been in 5 weeks, believe it or not, of lockdown. That may have seemed a very long time for you. I've been hearing a number of stories about the trauma, about the difficulty of these times. I've been hearing from people who have contracted the virus, people also who've been sick and not been able to receive quite the care that they might normally do at this time, which is putting so much pressure on our National Health Service. I've been hearing of people who have died, friends and family of people who come to Farm Street regularly now, and those who've been coming to Farm Street regularly in the past. And our hearts go out to all of you for all you've been going through at this time. I know also that these last weeks have been very difficult for us as a parish community. We've managed to get the live streaming of the Mass working, 2 Masses every day, but I know that it's not the same. It isn't a permanent substitute for gathering together as church, because to gather together as church, we do need to respond to that invitation to be present physically as well. But we're doing our best, and people have been very, very generous. Thank you very much for tuning in. It may seem that in these past few weeks I've been hearing from people on the phone that it's been a difficult time for faith too, that it may be a time when we experience something of the absence rather than the presence of God in our lives. And that's something to listen to. But the Gospel on this third Sunday of Easter, I think, has a message, certainly for me. It's the story of the road to Emmaus. Those 2 disciples, after the resurrection, are walking along the road, and although they've witnessed everything in Jerusalem of the crucifixion and Jesus rising from the dead, they don't believe that it's Jesus who's walking alongside them. They don't even recognise him. It seems that they're still grieving, that God still seems absent. But then they do recognise him. They recognise him at the breaking of bread. Now, for those of you who come regularly to Farm Street, you'll recognise this painting. The painting is by our artist in residence, Andrew White, but the central panel here of the 2 disciples, I think it's Peter on the left, and I'm not sure who it is on the right, but I know that Andrew has actually depicted himself here, and of course with Jesus. They recognise him at the breaking of the bread. And that invites the disciples, I think, into seeing who Jesus is in his entirety, who he is in his resurrection. They embrace something also of God's presence through the suffering, through the brokenness, through his absence. Now, I don't want to pretend that we can just easily flick a switch and find the presence of God. But I do believe that even in these really challenging times, it is an invitation to us to reassess our priorities in how we are human, how we are with our neighbour, how we are with the very planet which we inhabit. The lockdown has perhaps been inviting us, many have said to me, to look for the presence of God in our lives in even unexpected ways, even through suffering and what seems to be absence. That takes time in prayer. It takes time in reflection. And I think that one of the things that it's good for us to do during this time of lockdown is not simply to fill that time with lots of activity. That one thing we can be called to is to reflect more, looking for where the presence of God is. Now, the presence of God certainly for me has been present in these last couple of weeks. In the many people who have formed our volunteer team who've been phoning round those who are on their own. And the wonderful response to help with the homeless service from volunteers who are working in St Patrick's Soho, who will hopefully be working in Trafalgar Square next week, and from the Connaught Hotel in Claridge's, who've been feeding the homeless, about 300 of them now in Soho Square, twice a day. That's the presence of Christ. That's the presence of God. So may we, on this third Sunday of Easter, now dedicate ourselves to spending some quiet time, asking myself, where is Christ in the world around me? And what more can I do for him? Am I asked to do for him even at this most challenging of times? And may I wish you then, on behalf of the community here, a very happy third Sunday of Easter. We're praying for you and your family and your friends. May God bless you all.